Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming. So, tonight we'll be hearing from three alumni who all have experience in sports organizations and how they have utilized their comms degrees in their career in sports. So, first up, we have Tori Karras. Tori is a Cleveland native and graduate of Ohio University who has spent the past 7 years of her career working for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, Tori is currently serves as the director of marketing for the Cavaliers and has played a key role in the evolution of significant projects, including NBA All-Star 2022, the Cavs 50th season celebration, and Cavs City Edition campaigns. She also played a significant role in launching innovative programs like the Cavs Gold Pass, as well as fan development initiatives like the Junior Reporter Program and the Taste of Black Cleveland Food Showcase. So, in addition to her enthusiasm for marketing, Tori is passionate about positively impacting her community and serving as an advocate for women in the workplace. She currently serves as a member of WISE Cleveland's board and as a co chair of Empower, Rock Entertainment Group's team member resource group for women. While serving on the Empower leadership team, Tori and her team cultivated a mentorship program for women who work for REG. She has also played an active role as a member of Engage Cleveland's Leadership Council since 2018, and she currently serves as a professional mentor for OU Scripps PRSSA mentorship program. So, Tori, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Yeah, thank you so much, Grace. Hi, everyone. I'm Tori. Really excited to be here. I'm always just very excited to talk to current Bobcats. I was am feeling a little bit nostalgic and wishing that I was back on campus, getting to be in that position again. It holds a special place in my heart. So was very thankful to be able to be invited to be part of this today. And excited to talk to all of you guys. So I think a couple of things that I was asked to speak on are just, what does my current role entail? What was my career journey and how I got here, and then how comms really played a role in that. So I'll kind of speak to those three things today. Like Grace mentioned, I'm currently our director of marketing for the Cavs. Within my role, I have a team of 2 to 3 people under me, and then we oversee also a part-time team, a group of team members that support a lot of our initiatives called our promotional team, which is made up of about 15 or so people as well. But really the, categories I would say I oversee on a day-to-day basis would be things like grassroots marketing, promotions and theme nights, a lot of big, what we call tentpole moments. So things like NBA All-Star, or if we go into the playoffs, hosting something like a big fan fest and an event for fans to come out, celebrate, watch games with us. And then I would say also a lot of fan club programming. So things like our kids club, membership platforms, certain digital collectible platforms that we have here at the Cavs as well. And so those are kind of just some of the things that are involved, with my current day-to-day. But I guess just to talk a little bit more about how I got where I am, starting by just being at OU. I studied organizational communication there. And I had, I'm not sure if this is still a thing, but I had what was called a related area at the time. And so that was something where my related area was in PR and marketing. So I got to get my hands on all of my communication studies classes. And then I also took a lot of journalism classes tied to PR and marketing, which was also very helpful for just, giving me the chance to experience and get an understanding of what I really wanted to do. And then I would say too, I learned so much from just some of the on-campus organizations I was involved with. So some of those, which again, I don't know, I never know if I'm going to be dating myself at this point now, but some of those were things like Impressions, a student-run PR firm, AFIO, which was a community service fraternity. I was a learning community leader, which was really cool. Met a lot of cool people that way. And I had an internship with the Office of the President, maybe, writing press releases on some of the really cool research that some of our professors were doing. So just love to get my hands involved in so many different things and just try different things to see what I liked there. And I guess overall appreciated that OU gave me the chance to do that and try different things and meet new people. And so I would say when I graduated, I'm in a spot that most people are in. Often after graduation, you're a little bit lost for a moment. You're all right, for me, I'm I have student loans, just a broke kid who graduated from college. What's next? I don't even know if I was ready for this moment, right? And at that time I was job searching, and like while I was figuring out what my next step with my career path would be, I actually worked at a recreation department in the city that I grew up in since the age of 16. So it just so happened that someone was going, like the assistant director was going on maternity leave at the time. So I kind of stepped in and took her place for a little bit, which gave me a lot of like real world experience and just reminded me about how much I love sports again, I would say, growing up, just being an athlete my whole life. So, I got involved with that, and then I quickly took kind of a dive into the corporate world. So I started working for Quicken Loans, and I was in a sales related role for a couple of years there. And I really, I noticed how much I love just the fast paced, like upbeat culture of the people that I worked with, but I knew it wasn't my passion. It was like definitely feeling that like a couple of years in, and I was like, I may need to switch up a little bit. So about 2 years later, a like entry level position opened up on like a sales and service ops team for the Cavs. I was really, really spoiled and really lucky. For anyone who's a Cleveland sports fan, I went there in 2016 when we won our first championship in 50 years. So that was my first year working there. I got to be like in a championship parade. I got to go see like away playoff games. It was one of the most exciting times of my life, but also super busy, right? But I've been there for about 7 years, and I think this is my 5th or 6th role since I've been within the organization over the past 7 years. So I started kind of on the sales side of things and an operational aspect, transitioned into marketing eventually, and taken on some different leadership roles along the way, which is one of my favorite parts of my job too, is leading a team of amazing people. So that's kind of the path I took to get there. And I would say too, like some of the like things that I can translate from what I learned being a comm student and how that applies today. I remember actually specifically, Dr. Deardorff will probably laugh when she hears the story, but I remember specifically she gave like a group project, and like it was one of those scenarios where you don't get to pick your group, like you're assigned to the group, you're stuck with them all semester long. And every student can probably relate to the fact that like the group project is a little tough sometimes, especially if you're the one who's maybe pulling the weight for other people. But I can tell you that translates to real life corporate America so much, you have no idea. You don't always get to pick the people that you're working with. You're managing different projects, you're delegating different projects and roles, and it gives you a real life leadership opportunity. So I would say in your classes, like that one applies very well. And then I would say just overall, like the way you communicate with people and build relationships, like half the time your relationships are the reason that you get jobs. And so even just the networking connections that you make, the kindness you leave with someone when you're speaking with them, those can go a super, super long way. And then I would say just overall, I think presentation skills. I never realized how many times I'd be giving a presentation, even like just talking to you guys right now. Like when I entered, OU as a freshman, like I used to get super anxious about presentations where like, I remember specifically in my learning community class, like ditching one of my speech days and like saying I didn't feel well at one point, which I don't recommend this, you guys, but I just remember because I was so scared and nervous, and like it took me a minute to like get over that hump and like realize that you just have to try things and practice them and give yourself a chance to be a little bit brave in a moment. And it took me a long time to feel a little bit more confident speaking to groups and getting in front of people. And the more I did it, the better I felt about it. So I think just kind of keep those moments in mind, and those are super translatable into the workplace now. But yeah, I think that's kind of overall, like if I can leave you guys with anything, my 2 cents would be, your work ethic and your relationships can go a really, really long way. Those 2 things I think can help to build and pave your way into a career. So those would be a couple takeaways I would give on my end. But again, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tori. So next up, I'm going to, on behalf of the School of Communication Studies, introduce our next speaker, Joe Hamlin. Joe currently serves as the Director of Partnership Strategy at the Cleveland Browns, and his interest in sports and entertainment began with an internship back in 2004 with Basketball Australia while he was attending Ohio University, and has since then grown through multiple positions since then. After graduating in 2005 from OU, his career began with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and from there evolved towards sponsorships in 2008 with the Cleveland Monsters as their senior manager of corporate partnerships. Joe then left the sports industry in 2012 to serve as the director of corporate development at the Cleveland Clinic, but then came back to the professional sports world in 2015 with the Browns. Joe is a firm believer in the immense importance of communication in the sponsorship process that helps authenticate a brand's message to a target audience. And in his current role with the Browns, he is focused on working within multiple business units to ensure partner goals are matched with internal strengths to reach the right fans with the right message at the right time. And that's all while using custom-built campaigns that overall lift the fan experience. In his spare time, Joe also serves as the president of the Cleveland Astronomical Society and enjoys hiking, gardening, kayaking, and spending time with his dog. So on behalf of the School of Communication Studies, please join me in welcoming Joe Hamlin.
Hey guys, thank you, Mackenzie, for the introduction. Nice to see all of you, at least through cyberspace, and talk to some fellow alumni and some current Bobcats as well. This feels pretty cool to talk to some students. So yes, as she said, currently serving as the director of partnership strategy for the Browns. What does partnership strategy mean? Strategy is kind of one of those weird corporate buzzwords that everyone throws around. Case in point, we have 3 strategy departments at the Browns. I am just one of them. Basically, and to follow suit with what Tori did, kind of give you the where I'm at now, how I got here, and what with comms like. Where I'm at now is kind of the go-between in every department in our business and our sales process. So if you guys are familiar with any company, sports is just like any other business. They have all the same moving pieces. It's just a different product that we produce, and ours is entertainment. But there's all these different departments like marketing, as we heard from Tori. There's PR, there's community relations. There's the actual product side. In our case, our product is football, but there's also the product and the fan experience, building operations, concessions, security, the engineering team that's recreating the stadium at all times because it's always kind of falling apart. There's probably about 12 different departments within a company, and corporate partnerships has a really weird way of getting in everyone's business. When you're talking about businesses that sponsor the team, so if you go to a ball game and you see an outfield wall billboard, or you hear a radio ad, or you take part in a really cool promotion at halftime where you can vote on what hot dog you think is going to win if you're going to a Guardians game, or whatever have you, someone had to sell that. And they sold that because it did something for the business. And when they did that, they had to agree with all these different departments to make sure marketing knew it fit the fan brand and it fit the fan experience. The partner liked it. Ultimately, the team got money. That's why we exist. We're a for-profit entity. And someone has to make sure it all works really well. And what happens in a lot of businesses is you probably heard about it. It's called siloing, where everyone gets so focused on their own goal ahead of them, they don't really look and see what's going on over here. So strategy is built, the goal at least, is to network and make touch points with every single department to make sure we know what everyone has and we know what everyone needs. Because you'd be surprised how many times in corporate America, everyone is so focused on their goal, they don't realize what they might be paying for to achieve an objective is something someone else is willing to give them money for to do. And that's really kind of the golden goose, if you will, is if you can get a partner to sponsor your team that helps them in a way that also helps you, and you make money from it, and so does your partner. So that's the dream anyways. It doesn't always work out that easily as just described. So that's all and good, but what's the day-to-day? I do a lot of time looking in all of our inventory. So all the things that we sell and making sure, are they priced correctly? Are they working correctly? Are they working for the team? Are they working for the partner? Should we get rid of some? What new stuff should we be doing? What new programs, what new promotions, what new signage, what new media? What things are other teams doing that we could copy or imitate politely? Working with other departments, I already kind of mentioned that a little bit. We're doing a few other ones. And also, I do a lot of work with the actual brand side. So we have a sales team that goes after new companies to be a sponsor. We have an activation team that helps actual partnerships exist. But my job is also to help present our assets and present the team in a way that makes sense to the partner. So I do a lot of deep dive into brands, understand what the brand's trying to say about themselves, how that matches what the team is trying to say, and how they work together. I do a lot of work with data and helping data to tell a story, not just a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet, but what do those numbers mean with their demographics, so we can tell a story to a brand who might not care about the Cleveland Browns, but we can show them some data that might be interesting for them to think about their business. And also manage my team. I have a team of 3. I have a manager and also a coordinator. It's a lot of work to chase down a bunch of different people in different departments, and I'm grateful to have them with me to keep me sane. How did I get here? As Tori said, I've had a lot of different hats. I think I've been going at it a little longer, and that's okay. I'm still here, but a few different hats. So I started off in ticket sales at the Cavaliers. It was an entry-level position, and I'm happy to talk about that when I talk about OU. Ticket sales was fantastic, but when they offered me a chance to do sponsorships, there was so many more bells and whistles and so many more creative outlets to literally just think of a program, find a number for it, and sell it. It really kind of drew me in. I worked in minor league hockey for 4 years with the Monsters. I still cannot skate to this day, so don't think that being successful at sports means you can work in sports. Cleveland Clinic called with a really cool opportunity to learn how a 40,000 person company works, and I went there for a bit to do some corporate development and corporate fundraising. But ultimately, when the Browns called, it was a chance to see how the NFL worked, kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and I'm grateful for it. My first year was not as successful at the Browns as Tori's was for the Cavs. I walked into 3-13, 1-15, and 0-16. Quite the opposite of the Cavaliers, but my friends that were still there, I'm very happy for them. But a lesson I learned from that is look, life's never going to be fair. It's just not. And I don't want to be doom and gloom, but it's never going to be fair. But how you respond and how you handle that, you can find some really awesome success along the way, no matter what happens. And all of us learned that at the Browns, and we're stronger for it. Let's talk about why comms. When I was at OU, I was undecided. I'm from a very, very small town. And when I went to OU, this is going to sound crazy. I think there's one local, I won't say townie, local on the call, I believe. Athens was a big city to me. And it was like, wow, like there's stoplights and delivery pizza. This is huge. And so like, I had no clue what I wanted to do. There was too many options. And as I kept going, and eventually your junior year, they send you a nice little letter saying you need to pick a major. The one thing I kept hearing from counselors and advisors and professors and people that were working was, well, you got to have good communication skills. You got to have good communication skills. You got to know how to speak in front of people. You got to be a team player. And all these reoccurring themes kept coming up. And it didn't matter if you were talking about philosophy, astronomy, aviation, higher education, whatever it was you got to be a good communicator. And then I had one advisor who said, hey, there's this thing called communication studies and OrgComm where you really understand is how communication works in an organization. And I was like, I didn't know that was something, like I didn't know that existed. And then as soon as I got in a few classes, it's like, this is like something turned on. Words have meaning. And if you can dive into those words and understand what they mean and how to communicate back and forth with people, you can get all the ideas you have in your head out in a way that makes sense and do something with them versus having them all stuck up here. It got me in front of a lot of people speaking, in front of my own peers, which to Tori's point is a little more intimidating than strangers. And I overcame that fear at a very young age of public speaking, which has served me 100 times over in the working world. You'd be shocked how many people are extremely intelligent, but they can't share what's in their mind, or they can't communicate between two people, or they can't overcome in differences of, hey, I think this, you think that, let's find a compromise. They just can't do it. And that's really all that sales and sponsorships and partnerships is. It's a partnership. It's not a win-lose. It's a win-win. And you have to find a way to find the win for both sides. And it comes through great communication. So I did OrgComm, graduated there. While I was at OU, I got involved in club basketball. It was not in existence. And a few of us thought we could try out, and we failed miserably. And they suggested, hey, you can start a club and compete against JV teams. Club basketball was great because we had to learn how to make it work. We had to write bylaws, we had to fundraise, et cetera, et cetera. At that time, I still didn't know you could work in sports. And then my junior year, I stumbled into a study abroad, as you heard earlier, with Basketball Australia, which is the governing body of basketball in Australia. Ironically, I'm visiting some of those folks right now this week, where I am hanging out for a little bit to catch up on some old times. It's kind of crazy to think of that. And I found out there's so much more that goes into sport beyond the sport itself. There's a whole business. And after that, like Tori said, I graduated, and like a lot of grads, felt very lost and confused. I didn't have anything lined up, but luckily grabbed the Cavs job, and the rest is history. Sports is a lot of fun. It is a business. And that's the big thing to remember. We're not just running around playing with mascots and playing Pop-A-Shot. You're at a desk and you're working hard all day. But that's kind of my story. Happy to answer questions at the end, but I'll turn it back over to Mackenzie and the team, and we can keep the train going.
Thank you so much, Joe. I would now like to introduce our next panelist, Damar J. Hogan. Damar J. is a 2022 graduate of Ohio with a bachelor's in communication studies and a minor in sports administration. While at OU, he worked as an office assistant to the Dean of Students. He was also president of the Black Student Cultural Programming Board and vice president of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity. Damar J. was also the membership coordinator and secretary for the Association of Multicultural Sports Professionals. Since graduating, Damar J. has worked as an inside sales rep for the Washington Commanders. Welcome, Damar J.
Just want to thank you guys again for having me here, Professor Aiden, Mackenzie, Jacqueline, and Grace. Thank you guys for having me here. So yes, as Jacqueline mentioned, I am a recent graduate of Ohio University, just graduated last year actually, and I'm taking on a role here in Washington, D.C., actually Landover, Maryland, with the Washington Commanders as an inside sales representative, and a little bit about what my day-to-day looked like. So as Joe and Tori mentioned, I work with a book of business of different clients to help enhance their experience of coming out to football games, whether they're actual fans of the team or just people who like coming out and enjoying entertainment for the sport of football. So with that, it comes with stadium tours, multiple sales events throughout the week, on the weekends, doing whatever it is to bring them out here to try to get them out to the games. Something that Tori and Joe can probably both agree with, when you work in inside sales, it's a grind. A lot of long hours, a lot of days, and finishing up my first season with the Commanders here, I can tell you more than what I expected, but I don't regret it. It's a beautiful thing if you have a passion for sports and just helping people to give them the best experience that they can possibly get. I guess I will segue over to what led me down this path, right? So coming to OU, being from Cleveland, Ohio, once I touched the campus, it felt like home, just like the rest of us. It just felt right. It felt like the right decision to do. So coming there junior year, I was like, yep, this is where I'm going. Kind of like Joe mentioned, from that point, you have to select the major and what you wanted. So I went from picking psychology, and then I had the conversation of, well, it's going to be a little harder to try to find a job with a psych major. No, not throwing shade on anybody that's a psych major, by the way. But from that point, I was kind of like, yeah, maybe this isn't the best thing to do. So then I switched over to business, try to follow one of my best friends because he was in the College of Business. And then at that point, that led me coming to OU being undecided. First semester was a huge adjustment, just like the rest of us being freshmen. I'm actually a first generation college student as well. So first one in my family to graduate. So in terms of navigation and guidance and things like that, everything was completely new to me. So went through my first semester of college, and I finished the fall semester with a 1.68 GPA, you guys. Not ideal at all, but the struggle of finding the right pieces and just things of where to go, it was quite hard at first. So that led me to, doing some self-reflection and meeting with my guidance counselor, just really was that I really wanted to do in terms of like my studies and career field and things like that. And kind of like Joe, he mentioned to me, well, have you ever considered doing comms? And I was like, what is that? Exactly, like, what is comms? And it was like, communication studies. I was like, well, can you like further explain? You're giving me one word. It's like, I'm not sure what it is. And it's like the study of like how to communicate with people and things like that. And to me, it sounded so broad, didn't know it was an actual thing to do. So I was like, well, yeah, like how do I get involved with this? So picked up a few classes within my spring semester, public speaking and things like that, communications among cultures. I'm sure that you guys still have. Very fearful with public speaking. I am the most extroverted person you'll probably ever meet. Very scared to speak in public. Sounds backwards, I know, but it's the truth. As Joe mentioned, speaking in front of my peers was always a fear because I was always afraid of saying the wrong thing or speaking too fast or things like that. And comms really helped me becoming more comfortable with doing those things. Going back to my day-to-day, I speak with a lot of different clients, a variety of different people from all over the world, and you need to know how to communicate with them properly, read body language, understand postures, all those things go into communication that help you in the corporate world. And again, I think I can, kind of relate to you guys because in terms of finding internships, experience and things like that, it was actually quite hard because COVID hit my sophomore year of college while in Professor Aiden class. So you go from, all this human interaction to things actually becoming virtual and being online. So it was a very different experience for having the next 2 years, be online, internships kind of not falling through because we're not kind of knowing what direction the world is going to go in. So I just did what I could. I just stepped outside of my comfort zone, applied myself to a bunch of internships that were hiring as much as I could, and just made sure that I was involved when I was on campus, taking up any opportunity that I could. As you guys mentioned, I worked in the Dean of Students office all 4 years throughout my time at Ohio University. So I had the opportunity to connect with a bunch of staff and faculty members such as Kathy Fall. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of Tammy Andrews or Patty McSteen or Chad Barnhart. I worked with those guys on a day-to-day basis. So it helped me develop my professionalism at a very early age. Whereas, sometimes some people blossom later, which isn't a problem at all, but just putting myself in those positions to really apply myself because I was really concerned and focused on my career. So when it came towards my senior year of college, they have the sports business forum that they have every year. And I just talked to everyone that I could to try to find something, to land something. And throughout that process, I came across a variety of different interviews, just interviewing for everyone and, anything to try to get something going because I knew the time was ticking. And essentially, I felt like my opportunity was robbed because of COVID. But, you graduate, adulthood come, you can't continue to blame it on that because the world doesn't stop. So eventually, I was granted the opportunity to actually come down here in DC last February by one of my amazing bosses, Sam Barlow and Matt Noon, did a combine in person. Again, don't do public speaking. So I had to, read off of a script, in front of all these strangers that I didn't know in person. And I was holding the paper. I remember vaguely holding the paper, shaking like, oh my God, I cannot do this thing. And then eventually I had to calm myself down. Like, you got this. This is what you prepared your 4 years of college to do. You got this. So eventually calm down, read it off. And ironically enough, they offered me the position on the spot. So coming back, just, reflecting and being here talking to you all again today, some of you guys, graduated at high school, behind the screen and jump straight into college. My biggest, piece I guess I would give to you guys is it is doable. Kind of in the same boat of where you guys was, like I said, with being a recent graduate and, a COVID kid as well. Just make sure that you continue to network with your peers, your professors. I'm always a believer of Bobcat helping Bobcats. As you can see, we guys are all here. It's a real thing. You'll be surprised of how many Bobcats are in a variety of different industries across the world, and they're always willing to help if you guys shoot them a message or anything like that. The love is real, and stick to it, you guys. You guys got it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're going to turn it over to our question and answer and Bobcat-to-Bobcat-ness. So please feel free for anyone or any of our other panels to ask each other questions, to pop questions down into the chat or into the Q&A feature. I'm looking at it right now. I can get us started off with one. This is my question for Tori. Tori, you mentioned a little bit about this in your introduction and in your speech, but what is some advice that you would give as a woman in navigating this field in which we I think connotatively think about as a more male-dominated space, and how have you navigated that in your journey?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I love that question. So yeah, I would say one thing that I think is very important is to always have a voice in any scenario that you're in, right? Like I've been in so many rooms where I've been the only woman that was at the table, and it never made me back down from asking a question or giving my set of perspective, or, you know, my own perspective. So I think like one thing is just to make sure that you have a voice. I would say another thing is like women empowering women is important, right? Like it's not a competition. You should be lifting each other up. You should be highlighting each other. You should be a hype woman for everyone around you, right? So I think, you know, if you yourself can just be one of those women that's empowering other women within the sports world, it's going to create just an atmosphere that's going to want more women to be a part of it. And you know, the more female faces I can see in the sports industry, the better for me. I think for a really long time, women were really underrepresented in this space. So I always am just a huge advocate for trying to get more women to dive into this world and see what it's all about, and make sure that they know it's just a safe, fun atmosphere to be in. So yeah, those would be kind of two pieces of advice that I would give there.
Thank you. This is a question from Dr. Freimeyer. And she asked, what is a good entry-level job? And for all of the panelists, and are there any types of jobs or first jobs that you would avoid in your perspective?
I can go on that one. Dr. Modaf, I believe, talking about this. I know he's no longer at OU, but he was pretty influential for me. He gave me my only C at OU, and I deserved it. I definitely deserved it. I'll always remember that. And if I see him, it's the first thing I'll say. Thank you for that C. It was in presentations, actually, which is just ironic. That's all I do now. I talked to him about a job I saw that was unpaid. And don't get me wrong, 15, 20 years ago, unpaid internships was very common. It's still very common now, which is kind of weird. But it was a full-time job that was unpaid. And it had tinges that I didn't see, that they were feeding off of not just desperation to get a job and get experience, but off of somebody that wanted to work in events. And sometimes you have to be careful in getting into something to know that you have worth, even if you are entry level and just learning. You know, I don't care if it's grunt work or just putting paper in envelopes for mailers, you have value. And sometimes there's this feeling that you have to do anything at all costs to get that first experience. And that's not necessarily true. Just kind of stop and don't get so caught up in, oh my gosh, I have to have a job. I have to have a job. There's peer pressure. Look at all this debt. I have to do something. Because not everyone that arrives is there to help you, so to speak. So a bad entry-level job is one. Don't get me wrong, you're also not going to make $1 million probably in your first level job, but just keep your wits. A bad entry-level job will take advantage of you and not really give you the experience you're looking for. If you have a payment in financial terms or a payment in real learning and experience, great. But just keep your wits about you to make sure it's not something that's just stringing you along, so to speak.
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback off what Joe said. Definitely be on the lookout for a job that's going to hire you for your that values you. I'm sorry. You know, as Joe mentioned, you know, your self-worth and things like that. Don't just jump into a position just looking to gain the experience. You want a job that hires you for you and for you being you. What can you bring to them to help, you know, advance them and things like that? Again, with it being entry level, you won't make, you know, the fat lump of change that you're looking to make, but you want to, you know, bring something to there. You want to be able to add, you know, how can you help improve what they're trying to build within their job and things like that. So that would definitely be something I would, you know, just kind of piggyback what Joe said, because obviously me being 23 years young, like I said, being there, I'm still looking for experience as well, you guys, you know, but I think the biggest thing that I was keeping in the back of my mind is I know where I'm looking to go. I'm looking for jobs constantly that's going to help put me in the position to get to where I want to go. I wouldn't just take on anything that really doesn't benefit you as well, because time is a virtue, and you don't want to take time for granted. You know, no one has time to waste. So that would be something I would, you know, be mindful of when job searching.
I'll chime in just like with one last thing here is that I think there's a misconception a lot of the time in the sports world that it's extremely glamorous. Okay. And I think like Joe spoke to this a little bit earlier, but everybody who has gotten to attend a championship game or a playoff game has carried a million boxes to get there. So I say that because you've put in time, you put in dedication, and I think in sports sometimes it takes patience to the point of a paycheck or a title or whatever it is you're striving to get. It's going to take a little bit of time, and you might not get that dream job right out of college, I would say. And if you do, like, I don't know, give you an award, a prize of some sort. If you get your dream job, first job out of college, like, that's amazing. But I think just know, as you're looking for that, like, it may, you may get maybe 3 or 4 things on your checklist, and maybe you're compromising one because you're trying to learn, you're trying to get experience, you're trying to meet people. So I think don't let that deter you as you're searching. But I always say, like, the more you can get your hands in, the more hats you can wear to learn is always something those are good things to have in an entry level role. So just wanted to kind of speak on that a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you. So I kind of had like just a general question for all of you. So sports, it may not be as glamorous as it sounds according to you guys, but it's definitely a field that I feel like a lot of people want to get into. Do you have any suggestions when going through the interview process on how to stand out against other candidates?
Was this a general question for all of us, Grace? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just speaking last time, so I can let somebody else jump in if they want to.
I can hop in. I've been fortunate to hire a few different times, so I can kind of talk about that. Biggest thing in sports, and kind of something people don't want to hear when interviewing is, "Oh, I'm just a huge fan." It is not hard to find a sports fan. There's millions of them. It is hard to find someone that wants to do the job you need in that business. So my biggest advice when you're interviewing is really develop the story of why you want to do that job, that the product just so happens to be sports, but really fall in love with the job you're doing or the training that you're going to get to do a job you want to do later. Going in saying, I'll do anything to work for this team. It sounds right in your head, but that person hiring you, it probably might spark some alarm bells that you're going to kind of get there and fanboy or fangirl out and not be focused on doing the actual work. We're all incentivized and hired and fired to do the work. And so I would say if you're going to get into sports, and also catch-22, if all you're doing is for to love sports, it's going to wear you out because there is so much other work. There are so many more boxes to carry. And if you just want to sit back and watch a ball game, I don't know if I've ever watched an entire Browns game. I think I've always been running around doing whatever. So fall in love with the job, find the job you want. And if you want to work in sports, find how that job fits in or what job exists in that team and chase the job. The team, the league, the sport, that can change. That might be one of the things that Tori said you might have to sacrifice. Case in point, works in hockey, still can't skate. I know nothing of hockey and it worked. But chase the job, not so much the fact that you're working in sports.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I can kind of piggyback and add on a couple of things. And I would say too, sometimes people don't work for the teams that they're fans of because they know when they're realistic, they know they won't be able to actually watch the game. So you don't get to be as much of a fan anymore. So, getting to speak on that a little bit. But I would say too, when you're speaking to the actual like interview process, I always think that people who take that extra mile to stand out always goes a long way for me. And what I mean by that is like manners, like, did you thank every single person that you interviewed with, right? Did you go out of your way to follow up and send an example of the deck that you created for a project, which applies to the job that you are now interviewing with? Did you also upload a cover letter on your profile? Because I can tell you right now, when we're sifting through applications in sports often come through Teamwork Online. And when we're sifting through those, anybody who did not upload a cover letter or only uploaded their resume, but didn't fill out all the extra information sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it's a really easy way to weed people out because it seems like they didn't take the 100% effort to get there. So I guess that would be my suggestion is like, don't take the easy way out. Like if you really, really want something, you're going to put your best foot forward. You're going to fill out every line, every question that was asked of you plus more. So I think just make sure that you're always giving your best and finding a way that you're going to stand out and be a name rather than a number. When people are looking to hire you. So that would be my addition to that too.
Yeah, Joe and Tori probably said it better than I could have, honestly, and they have more time in the industry than I have. I think the biggest thing that I would say that I kind of focus on with doing my interview process is impact. So, going back to, organizations hiring for you, I focus on, how I made the person feel. Are you guys familiar with the term? It's not what you say, it's how you make the person feel. So a lot of times in work, we focus on building rapport and things like that. And whenever I walk into any interview, I kind of tell background on me to, make it more subtle, to make myself more comfortable. So it's not this nerve-wracking thing, to kind of break the ice. So then it can be a natural flow process to where I'm not struggling to answer any questions or things like that, or I seem so tense if I'm having a question asked of me to respond to. And again, just like Tori said, going after after, the interview is over, sending a thank you, thank you for, giving me your time, because from seeing my manager do it, they interview thousands of people and they have to select like 5 people or something like that. What can I do to make myself stand out of these thousands of people? Everyone, in the world is unique, but what can you, say to the interviewer that's going to make them remember you? So that would be the advice I would give.
Thank you. Okay, kind of going in that same direction, for students interested in working in this world, what should they be doing while they're in college that can, I guess, continue to help them stand out and make them better prepared? And maybe what are some things that you did that you felt really set you apart?
I can go and answer this question first. So I think again, just with you guys being involved in organization, try to have your hand in everything that you can while you're there. I know the football team do a lot of different things, as well as the basketball team as well. I know when I was there, along with being in the Association of Multicultural Sports Professionals, I was involved in SBA, the College of Business. They do a bunch of different trips and things like that, as well as this sports forum coming every single year. And when those things happen, again, just network off rip. You may not be offered a job off the first hand, but when you take those cards, what are you doing with those business cards? Are you actually taking the time to reach out and email those people? Or are you just taking a business card and just kind of throwing them on your bed or something like that? Those are the different things that's going to, kind of separate you from other people. So I would definitely recommend, finding what it is that you can get involved with down there at OU, because of a variety of different things that you guys can take your hand in. Like I did best security for a little bit, just with doing stuff with the football games, such whatever it could to, help put on my resume, because their teams are looking for those different experiences that can be applied to the job once you get hired.
Sorry. I was going to say that's great feedback. My feedback similar. It's just like as many student organizations, internships, and networking that you can get involved in, the sooner the better. And like a real life example I would give of this, and this isn't, something that is always happening, but for example, like with the OU mentorship program I'm involved with, my mentor, or my mentee was like so fantastic. And we created such a great relationship that I actually helped her get her role within the CAVS organization now, and she now has a full-time job there. So like what I mean by those relationships can go a long way. It can start just by simply having someone reach out to you on LinkedIn, asking a professional to have a conversation, pick their brain, learn about their job. Sometimes you do develop mentor or mentee relationships. And if you just kind of continue to have those meaningful relationships that can, help you get somewhere. So I say anything tied to networking, anything tied to student organizations, because student organizations also give you the opportunity to lead people as well. A lot of times, when people are hiring, they're looking for leaders and seeking those out. So the fact that you can raise your hand and get involved in ways by doing those things is just a really great win, I think. And OU, I know, offers a lot of student organizations to you guys to take advantage of. So agreed on that end.
Yeah, and I'll bring us home here on this one. Have a story to tell. College is awesome. We all loved it. I wish I was, 19, 20, 21 again. That would be awesome. But then again, life's great too, so that's fine. But have a story to tell, and I think Tori said it really well. Get involved in things because the more you get involved in or you expose yourself to, doors have a weird way of opening up, and if you're just kind of open to those possibilities, a lot more doors will open up if you're involved versus if you just go to class and sit in your dorm room. So the more you get involved, it's almost like it happens without you even trying. Things just kind of come to you. You're like, all right, yeah, I'll try this. And next thing you know, you're 20 years into a sports career. So get involved, whether it's a nonprofit, a part-time job is great on campus. I was a tour guide and I worked for the Phonathon, and I called alumni, and it got me a lot of experience talking in front of people. And here I am. But a part-time job is great. Plus you get some money. Student organizations are great. Obtain a leadership role in that student organization, just something else to have on that resume. You heard a few folks say it today so far. You get a stack of resumes and they all kind of look the same. And so if you can have little things that stand out to at least have a bit more of a story starter, it's very, very helpful. So just try to find a way to get involved. If it's not the exact thing you want, that's fine. College is really here to show that you're trainable. You want to learn and you know how to show up on time. I mean, those are some skills that I hate to say it are hard to find. And if you can show that you did it at a high level at a very developmental time in your life, it helps you stand out. The last thing I'll say, and this is kind of gets into the professionalism side. Look, social media is great. It's awesome. If you guys start applying for jobs, people are going to look at your social media. So if you have anything on there that your grandmother wouldn't approve of, clean it up. Right, wrong, or indifferent, people are going to find you online when you start applying for jobs. And it's time to kind of step into the bold new world and leave some of that behind. I know a lot of people that have not gotten jobs because you go online, it's like, we can't have this person representing our company. But yeah, have a story to tell and you'll be fine.
Okay. As you have all mentioned, that it can be hard to be working in such a sometimes a fast-paced environment and maybe not getting to sit down and enjoy sporting games all the time. So what are some advice that you would give to maintain like a work-life balance and some things that you have found helpful along the way?
I can kind of jump in on this one. I think you have to understand your boundaries, and this takes time. I think like if you're speaking to like who I am today right now versus who I was at 22 years old, it would be a very different person. And I've learned a lot. But I think like, no, you're not negotiable. So if that's like a scenario where it's like, I know I'm going to wrap things up at 6 p.m. today, and that's my time frame. That's, where I'm setting my boundary at. Like you kind of set it, you work with it, and like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to come in and I'm going to work as hard as I can during this hour and this hour. And your boundary is going to be different for people, right? Like some people's boundary is like, I will not answer emails during lunch, or some people's boundary can be, you end work or start work at certain times every day and something along those lines. But, I think you just have to know what your own boundaries are, what you're willing to be flexible on, and what's just kind of something that you want to stick with, and make sure you communicate that. And I would say that would maybe be a piece of advice there. And then I just think on the balance too, like, yeah, make sure when you like leave work and you are setting that boundary, like you take some time to check out, right? Like I have a work phone and a personal phone, which I actually love. Some people aren't a fan, but I love, because I like to tuck that second phone away and make sure I can't hear it or see it for a minute, and just have my me time, right? Like I like to do things like go into yoga where phones really aren't allowed, or exercise is a big outlet for me. Again, even though I work in sports, I like to play them. Like I play club volleyball for fun. Like, so know what know those things that like make you happy, and make sure you can have a moment to actually like check out and like be in the moment and enjoy those things. So yeah, that would be kind of my feedback on that piece.
I would just add to that, just know what serves you and what doesn't with your time. I used to think that 18 credit hours was a lot in a quarter, and then you work, 60, 70 hour week sometimes. You're like, oh, yeah, this is a lot. But just know when you're in your free time, what things you're doing just that doesn't serve you. You might not watch TV as much, and you won't really miss it when you find things that really serve you and really make you who you are. And then you can find that time to get your dry cleaning done and do your laundry and get groceries. It's hard at first. I'm not gonna lie. When I got out of school, like it's like, holy cow, I've only got 3 hours, a night to do what I want to do. That's insane. But it's also a part of just kind of juggling, being an adult and trying to get things done. But just make sure if you do have free time, you're doing things that really feed your soul, and you'll be surprised, how quick you can kind of, as Tori said, collect yourself and kind of bounce back and dive back into work again.
Yeah, I think I don't have much to add to that. I will, as you guys know, I'm probably still juggling now. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I agree with Joe and Tori on that. Just definitely making sure you guys do things that you enjoy, because you can become very invested in your work. I know I fell victim to it at times, what finding myself working at 10 p.m., which is not uncommon sometimes, but you shouldn't do it every night. It's unhealthy for you. And I say that to say, make sure you guys are, taking care of your mental and things, making sure you're taking care of yourself, cleansing and doing whatever you can do to, recharge and stay focused, because it's needed. Everyone needs some time to just kind of step away, decompress and, refocus and recharge. So that would be the biggest thing, because even in college too, I was a workaholic, just doing a million different things at once. And it wasn't until senior year where it was like, okay, I need to kind of like take a step back from things.
Okay. Here's another question for Dr. Freimeyer. Recognizing that networking can be kind of intimidating when you are in college, and what are some ways that you think students can get started with that process, and make it a little less scary?
I mean, I have people reach out to me on LinkedIn all the time, and I would honestly say too, even like for me on the other end, it's overwhelming sometimes, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't been on LinkedIn in a minute, and I'm trying to catch up, and like, so I think like know that sometimes even on the other end of things, it's not always easy for people, but I would say like, honestly, if people just send like a meaningful message on LinkedIn, that's usually like really, gets a conversation started. If it's not just sending a request to somebody, it's sending a personal note saying like, hey, I'm interested in learning about this project I read about on your profile, or something that's just making it a little personal. Or like, hey, I saw that you worked in this marketing for this team. Like, I'm very curious about this. So something that just makes it seem like you're genuinely interested in learning from that person. A lot of people call them like informational interviews. So honestly, just saying like, would you be open to having, an informational interview, or just letting me pick your brain for 30 minutes, like when you're available? And I would say like one thing that's really helpful in this sense too, is that sometimes the people you're reaching out to are very busy, and you do have to value their time. So I think the easier you can make it on them by, setting up the meeting, or making sure that you overly communicate like times that you're available. Those kind of things are key, because like if you make it hard on them, it's not going to make the scenario easy for anybody, by having like poor communication or lack of organization. So that's the one, like honestly, the biggest takeaway I would say was make it easy, make it personal.
I would just to tag on to that, being afraid to reach out to people. I always thought when I was younger that as I grew up, I wouldn't be afraid anymore. I'm terrified of stuff all the time. It's different stuff. That's it. Your comfort zone moves. So yeah, you might learn not to be afraid of one thing, but there's just something else. So you're going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable as a part of, entering the working world, and kind of embrace those moments where you get those butterflies and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm sending a note to, so-and-so. But as Tori said, be respectful of their time. They might not get back to you for a while, or they might not be available for a while. Have questions ready. When you get them on the phone, it is a lot of work to be like, okay, now I have to come up with questions to talk about this person, but have an agenda, have questions you want to cover. That way it's not kind of a weird phone call where the person's like, so what do you want to talk about? And you're just like, I don't know, how's your job? So you have kind of some things you want to talk about. And again, try to find those people that have a job you're curious about, and just kind of hear their story. And people are pretty open about sharing usually, as long as you're just patient. And to Tori's point, just come prepared.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of Tori and Joe, I call it the second voice rule. So if you feel like you should do it, I kind of just do it. As Joe and Tori, I have been intimidated of reaching out to people, but if I have a thought in my mind, we're like, should I do it? 9 times out of 10, you probably should, because you're legit curious on something. As Joe said, and Tori, definitely make it easier. I've sent plenty of LinkedIn messages, all the time to a variety of different people. Just stating, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm curious about. Could you help me? You guys are looking to get into this industry. Nobody is, going to be disrespectful or anything like that, because everyone remember how it was when they first started. So any piece of information or anything like that we can provide for you guys, majority of the time, everyone is willing to help, because we know how competitive and how busy it can get when being in the sports industry. So to Joe's point, make sure, you be respectful of their time and things like that, and come with an agenda, because it can go a long way.
And you, both of these guys made me like think of something. It kind of like triggered a thought I wanted to add to, is that I think when you're talking about fear, like I kind of always try to weigh out like fear versus regret. And I would probably choose trying to get over my fear all day than regretting reaching out to someone. And that could be on LinkedIn, or it could literally be you're in a room at a speaking panel and you saw, that one brave girl that sits in front of the class and asks all the questions. You saw her go up first to introduce herself, and you're like, why can't I be that person? Like, you don't, it doesn't mean you have to be that person, but like, you can take a minute and be like, hype yourself up. Like, you can be that person giving yourself a pep talk in the bathroom in the mirror, being like, you got this, So I would say like, I choose, trying to, to Joe's point, put yourself in an uncomfortable scenario and push past fear. And I would choose that all day, every day, before regretting not introducing yourself or taking a chance on an opportunity. So that may stick with some people.
Yeah, get weird with it. Get out there. It's a scary world, but just dive in. It's not as bad.
Okay, we're coming down to our last couple minutes here, so we'll close with one more quick question. What are some ways and how do you give back to your community through volunteer experiences or other ways of giving back?
I think any of us can probably jump in. I think one thing I really value about the organization I work for is that I would say that our organization really, really emphasizes and prioritizes giving back to the community. I think we're very, very civically engaged. And so I think one thing that we ask of all of our team members is to complete 8 service hours every year, every individual that works for the organization. So I would say like, that's something that's great. And our community relations and social impact teams like provide opportunities. So like, if you're someone who wants to be a little bit more hands-on and you want to go, go paint a wall at a place that needs a little bit of updating, or if you want to go to the Boys and Girls Club and actually play basketball with kids, you have that. Or if you just want to be somebody who's sorting through books at a book bank, like you have that chance too, right? So I think they give great opportunities. For me, I'm really passionate about, I think I said this earlier, but like just, giving an opportunity for women to work in sports, being a mentor to women in sports. So, mentorship is huge for me. Just even having like a mentee, from OU, and then having just other mentees even within my own organization, or working with WISE, which is a group for women in sports and events. Like those are all things that are super important to me. But I think you have to find your passion with service, right? I think it really ties to like, what do you care about and how do you want to give back?
I'm going to have a call with Pam Frasco at the Cavs, because the Browns, we give 10 hours of community service. Not that it's a contest, but score 1 for the Brownies over the Cavs with that one. Let them know. Hashtag it. I love Pam. Tell her to say hi. Look, it's time, talent, and treasure is what some people say for giving back. And when you're young, we joked about earlier, you're not going to have a lot of treasure. So don't feel like giving back is having to write a check to every fundraiser. Get involved with whatever fits with you. I've been involved with a couple of different nonprofits that had a great meaning. I mean, Cleveland Clinic, that's all I did. That's all, my whole job was corporate fundraising. And sometimes you'll find something that's a great opportunity, but find something you're passionate about, because when you're volunteering, if you're passionate about it, it goes so much further, because the recipient also wants to have somebody who's with them on the mission, not just trying to get something to put on a resume. And that's something I struggle with a little bit too, is like, well, I should give back to this thing because it's more publicized or it'll look better on my LinkedIn or something. But find something that does give back, but it fits you. I've done cool volunteer projects planting trees in the national park near Cleveland. The Cleveland Astronomical Society is just because I'm a huge nerd and I'm curious about astronomy, and I need somebody to run the meetings. And I get to listen to these lectures, and all I have to do is run the meeting. It's great. And I get to bring people in to learn about astronomy. I helped out with Shoes and Clothes for Kids, which was more, donations and whatnot. But there's so many nonprofits. I think I read somewhere there's 3,000 nonprofits in Cleveland alone. They need help. And if it's just your time, and when you develop your talent, you can give that on associate boards. And when you have treasure, you can give back as well. But just find what suits you. But it does make you feel pretty good when you give back, because you realize there's a great big world out there, and you can try to leave it a little bit better than you found it.
Yeah, kind of going off Tori and Joe. I'm a believer. You do kind things to others, something kind in return will happen to you. So to that point too, as mentioned, I'm a huge extrovert. I just love helping people. Like, I loved it my whole entire life. So it really doesn't take me much of anything to help support or kind of, give myself to people. So, I'm pretty sure some of you guys are in, fraternities, sororities, and things like that. There's a bunch of people across the world within your different chapters and things like that. I'm actively still involved within my fraternity. Some people here in the area, we do a lot of different volunteer experiences and things like that, giving back to the community, feeding the homeless and different things like that. We have organizations was inside the team as well, where we, I'm pretty sure almost every team does something like this, but like a Toys for Tots thing that we do around the wintertime as well. And even things, such as this, being able to be an advocate, to speak to, people like you guys, as I, get older, not that much old, but talking to you guys make me feel old sometimes. But just realizing that, I have a voice that I can share that can be impactful, to help you guys, get one step closer to your dream or your career or something like that. So it brings me satisfaction, as Joe mentioned, to see the smiles on you guys' face and see that you're actually gaining something from topics and discussions like this. So those are little things that I do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all of you for being here, and for everyone for listening in and listening for such an insightful conversation. On behalf of the School of Communication Studies and the Commons Alumni Board, thank you for attending tonight's Bobcat-to-Bobcat, and have a great rest of your night, everyone.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.